I read something recently that really made me pause to think. And the idea was this: you don't actually become what you aspire to. You become what you're willing to tolerate. And I have not been able to stop thinking about it since. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. So the premise was simple and devastating, right? We spend so much time and energy focused on our goals and our dreams and our vision boards and our intentions, and no one is arguing that that work is important. But if you really think about it, what actually shapes us, what we actually become, is determined less by what we aspire to and far more by what we're willing to put up with. What we tolerate in our relationships, what we tolerate in our work, what we tolerate from ourselves, the excuses we let slide, the standards we let drop, the behaviors we keep accepting because changing them feels like too much effort. That's what shapes us. Not the dream, the tolerance. Here's where it gets really interesting for midlife women specifically. Many of us are noticing that our patience is shorter than it used to be. We feel more irritable, more easily overwhelmed, quicker to frustrate. And we often interpret that as a problem. Something's wrong with us. We need to calm down. We need to manage our stress better. And look, on that last point, I think most of us do. We do need to manage our stress better. But I think our lack of tolerance or having less tolerance has a completely different interpretation. And that interpretation is this. This is a possibility. As estrogen and progesterone decline in perimenopause and menopause, our ability to chemically buffer stress the way that we once did leaves with them. Our nervous systems become more reactive. Things we used to absorb, push through, or simply even not notice start landing very differently. And I would even go as far as to say the invisible emotional labor that we've been carrying for years starts to feel very, very heavy. And I do not believe that's a malfunction. I believe a lowered tolerance for the things that are not working in your life is actually your biology handing you a gift. Your body is making it harder to keep tolerating what does not serve you. Did you hear that? I'm going to say it again because I think it is so important. Your body is making it harder in midlife to keep tolerating what is not serving you. It's turning up the volume on a signal that has been there for a long time. And now you're given a very stark opportunity to listen. Because it's almost like the volume becomes so loud, you can no longer ignore it. So let's get specific. Because tolerance, like so many things, is very sneaky. It rarely looks like big, dramatic decisions. More often, it really looks like 1,000 small ones. We tolerate the relationship dynamic that's been quietly draining us for years. We tolerate the job that stopped feeding us a long time ago. We tolerate the inner critic that's been narrating our every move for years, and most often in ways that are not useful. We tolerate the habit we keep meaning to address. We tolerate the standard that we set, but then quietly keep letting it slide. And we do all this for very understandable reasons. I think that's really important to acknowledge. Changing what we've been tolerating requires courage. It requires bravery. It often requires disappointing someone, giving up something, maybe even losing something, or admitting that we've been accepting less than we deserve for longer than we want to admit. But the cost of tolerating what does not serve you is not neutral. You become it. Slowly, quietly, inevitably. The standards that you keep, or in this case, often the standards that we don't keep, become the life that we live. So here's what I want you to leave with. And I want to be clear that this is not a pressure to overhaul your entire life. Never. I hope you never leave this podcast feeling that way. I mean, I work really hard to make things more tangible than that. Simply stay wildly curious about what you are tolerating and why. Sometimes you're going to like your reasons, right? You might like tolerating someone's bad attitude in the grocery store because you realize that everyone has human lives, and maybe that person's rumbling with something that you have no clue about, right? That might be a reason you like. But maybe at home, you have been tolerating being spoken to or treated a certain way for a really long time. It's become a pattern. It's become literally the relationship, the expectation. And every time it happens, there's an internal friction within you, right? There's that integrity pain. But you don't speak up. You don't ask for what you need. You don't lean into the hard conversation because you're afraid of the consequence. That kind of tolerance costs you a lot. And at some point, there needs to be a reckoning around that if you are going to create a state of deep health for yourself. So stay curious about what you're tolerating. And it's, of course, never with judgment. We always move forward here with curiosity, right? Grace and Gritters always look at things with curiosity, not judgment. And curiosity sounds like, what might I need to put down? What might I need to let go of? What has become so normal that I've stopped noticing it, but when I pause to notice, it hurts? What would I refuse to tolerate if I were designing my life from scratch? So again, these questions aren't comfortable, but they are really important. I would say even more important in midlife when your biology is already nudging you towards more honesty. So again, you don't become what you aspire to, you become what you tolerate. Stay curious, stay honest. And maybe just take one area this week where you've been tolerating something that is no longer acceptable to you. Maybe it's the way that you talk to yourself. Maybe it's the way that you eat. Maybe it's the way that you keep making excuses for things that you actually want to be showing up for. And just ask yourself, what would it look like if I stopped tolerating this? You don't have to solve it all today. You just have to stop pretending that it isn't there. If this episode landed for you, please share it. Text it to a friend, send it to your sister, post it somewhere. The women in your life who need this message are out there, and a single share goes way further for the success of this show than you know. Thank you in advance. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.